Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S6 6017 Arthur's Mystery Envelope. Chapter 1. Cafeteria at Lakewood Elementary was filled with kids eating lunch. Some of them had brought sandwiches from home. The rest were eating school lunches. Today's choice featured a mystery meat covered in gravy. A few teachers wandered between the tables, trying to keep the noise under control. Let's keep it down, said Mr. Rappan. He shook his head. I don't think anyone is listening. Miss Sweetwater nodded. Or maybe they just can't hear us, she said. At one of the middle tables, Arthur and his friends were finishing up. Arthur was poking at his food with a fork. Even without the gravy, he said. You'd have no idea where this came from. Ready for action, boys? Francine asked. Ready, said Arthur. He put aside his tray. And waiting, said Buster. They stared at a game of milk hockey. Francine and Sue Ellen made up one team. Arthur and Buster were the other. They used a crushed milk carton as a puck, hitting it back and forth the length of the table. Francine dodged left and flipped the carton past Arthur's hand. Buster tried to stop it, but the puck slid past him off the table. Goal, said Muffy. She was the official scorekeeper. Francine smiled. That didn't take long, she said. Arthur flexed his hands. We just take a little while to warm up, all right, said Sue Ellen. Let us know when you're nice and toasty. Maybe we'll need a substitution, said Buster. He turned to Binky Barnes. Do you want a turn? No, said Binky, crushing another carton with his fist. He just liked making pucks. Attention, please. Distinctly, the school secretary was speaking over the loudspeaker. Arthur Reed, please report to Principal Haney's office immediately. A hush fell over the room. Everyone was staring at Arthur. Buster's mouth was wide open. Binky's hand had frozen in mid-crush. Uh-oh, said Francine. I'll say, said Muffy. Sue Ellen just shook her head. You're in real trouble now, Arthur, said Buster. Sometimes Mr. Haney yelled at him for running through the halls, but he had been to the office only once, for putting sneezing powder on Mr. Rappan's desk. Are you all right, Arthur? The Francine asked. I guess. He doesn't look all right, said Sue Ellen. He looks like one of those deer you read about, the ones who stare into the car headlights. He's in shock. He's not used to visiting the principal's office. I could get there blindfolded with one hand tied behind my back. What did you do, Arthur? Asked Francine. Arthur shook his head. I don't know, nothing that I can think of. Binky snorted. Don't bother trying that excuse on Mr. Haney. It never works for me. Arthur stood up. Well, I guess I should go. Nice knowing you, Arthur, said Francine. Good luck. And if you're not planning to finish those potatoes, he pointed to Arthur's plate. Arthur slid over his tray. Help yourself. I just lost my appetite. Chapter 2. When Arthur got back to the classroom, his friends rushed to his side. You survived? Said Buster. With no obvious signs of torture, Binky added. He looked a little disappointed. What happened? Asked Francine. Arthur let out a sigh. Mr. Haney gave me this. Held up a large brown envelope. He said it was from my mom. That's it? Asked Muffy. She reached out for a closer look. What does it say? Is it sealed? Francine grabbed the envelope. It's sealed, all right. She held it up to the light and too thick to read through. Give it a shake, said Buster, cocking his ears. Francine shook the envelope for a moment. It rustled softly. That doesn't tell us much, she said. The Binky folded his arm. Let's just open it. I can't. It's addressed to my mother, and look what's stamped on it. Private and confidential. That's a bad sign, said Buster. Good news is never private. Besides, you can't start making excuses until you know what kind of trouble you're in. Didn't Mr. Haney give you any clues at all? Francine asked. He said it was important. Taking back the envelope, that was about it. If it was good news, Mr. Henny would have told you. My mother always tells me right away if we gotten a new limo or if the cook is making a special dessert for dinner. He didn't say anything like that. Arthur admitted. That means it's bad news, said Francine. The question is, how bad is it? This was not a question Arthur wanted to think about. The Binky laughed. Ooh, I bet you lost a library book. I don't think Mr. Henny gets involved with overdue library books, said Arthur. Besides, I just returned all mine. Oh no, said Francine. What? Said Muffy. Tell us, said Buster. Tell me, said Arthur. Never mind. It's too terrible to think about. Arthur turned pale. That's why you have to tell me. All right. But you forced me into it, she shuddered. What if you didn't pass Mr. Rappan's history test? Arthur frowned. The big test? Had been the week before. It had been a hard one. Remember, Arthur? You told me afterward that you wrote how the Pilgrims came to America in 1620. Francine, the Pilgrims did come to America in 1620. She looked surprised. Really? Everyone else nodded. Well, still, Francine tapped the envelope. The proof is right here, and if you fail the test, you might fail the whole year. You know what that means? Summer school. Arthur sat down in his chair and thought about his fate. Summer school, perhaps the two most dreaded words in the English language. He saw himself chained to the wall of a dark dungeon. Outside the barred window, he could hear his friends playing. He looked out through the bars. Buster and the Brain was setting up a tent for camping. Muffy and Prunella were rollerblading. Arthur looked around his cell. He was alone, with only some thick, dusty books for company. Then the guard, Mr. Rappan, walked in. He was slurping ice cream from a cone. A few drops fell on the stone just beyond Arthur's reach. Snap out of it, Arthur, said Buster. Arthur looked at his friend blankly. You know what they say, Buster went on. Those who don't learn the history are doomed to repeat it. Arthur sighed. History or not, he felt doomed for sure. Chapter 3. Arthur could have taken the envelope straight home after school, but he didn't. Mr. Henny didn't say anything about when you should deliver the envelope. The Brain had told him, under international law, you have the right to make a plan. They were sitting in a booth at the Sugar Bowl. Buster and Francine were there too. Prunella and Muffy were seated behind them. Arthur had bought some candy, but he wasn't eating it. He was just moving it around in front of him. The candy was shaped in a rectangle with a big question mark inside it. The Brain was staring hard at Arthur's envelope. If only I could use X-ray vision, he said. Buster grabbed the envelope from him. We have to take action. I don't want to spend all summer doing fun stuff without you. He pushed the envelope toward the edge of the table. Hey, what if you accidentally lost it? He shoved the envelope onto the floor. It could end up in the trash or the shredder, then bulldozed into a landfill. Only the seagulls would read it there, and we don't have to worry what they think. That's true. Prunella picked up the envelope. Don't listen to him, Arthur. He doesn't look ahead. You need to think of something that won't be blamed on you in the end. She paused. Maybe you could hide it in the laundry basket and it could get washed. She picked up the envelope and held it carefully as if it were wet and dripping. You won't be able to read it, but you won't be blamed. Laundry? Said Arthur. Interesting, not interesting. Risky. You need to get it as far away from your house as possible. Buy it a first-class ticket to Alaska or Timbuktu. I don't have that kind of money. He looked at the clock. It was time to go home. Everyone went outside. Francine was still frowning. There must be some way out of this. The Brain looked down at the storm drain. You could drop it in here, he said. The current would carry it into the Bear Lake and from there to the Otter River. Once it was in the harbor, it would be carried out to sea, maybe even to Europe. When it eventually washed up on shore, possible her mother might find it, but she probably wouldn't understand English, so you'd be safe. Europe is far away, said Arthur. Francine plucked the envelope from the Brain's hand. Don't do it, Arthur. If you try to lose it, you'll be in double trouble for losing it and for whatever you did in the first place. She handed the envelope back to him. The whole thing doesn't seem fair. I didn't do anything. I just have to give the envelope to my mother and see what happens. He had hoped, saying that it would make him feel better. It didn't. That's the last result, said the brain. But of course, the choice is yours. Chapter 4. Hello, Arthur called out softly. No one was in the kitchen except his dog, Pal. Arthur knew his mother was home, though. Her car was in the driveway. She could be busy, he told Pal. In fact, I'm sure of it. She could be working or helping DW, taking care of baby Kate. I don't want to disturb her. Pal barked. Are you hungry? Said Arthur. Pal wagged his tail. Arthur put down his backpack on the counter. One corner of Mr. Haney's envelope was sticking out of the flap. Then he began rinsing out Pal's food dish. Mr. Haney told me the envelope was for Mom. Arthur explained to Pal, but he didn't say what was in it. Pal barked. No, said Arthur. I can't eat the envelope. Pal barked again. No, I can't bury it in the backyard either. He put the empty dish on the floor. Pal whined with the disappointment. All my friends think the news must be bad. Arthur went on. Pal continued to whine. Francine thinks I failed Mr. Rappan's history test. She said I'll have to go to summer school. Arthur made a face. Pal jumped up and down at his side. Arthur fetched the dog food from the pantry. Maybe I'll just leave it out and not say anything. Mr. Henry said I should bring it home to her. He didn't say I actually had to give it to her. Maybe she won't even notice it. Arthur laid the dish on the table, then opened his backpack. He removed the envelope carefully and put it on the table. What's that? Arthur whirled around to find his sister DW standing in the doorway. What's what? The envelope, silly. Nothing. He leaned on the table. It's just a dumb old envelope. People could walk by this envelope for weeks and not even notice it. And even if they did notice it, they wouldn't bother to open a boring envelope like this. That's a lot of nothing. You sure are acting weird. I'm not acting weird, said Arthur. He straightened up and folded his arms. I am worried. I'm not worried. I am hurried. That's it. Hurried. Third grade is very busy. DW climbed onto a chair and stared into Arthur's eye. You don't fool me. I don't worry when I see it. Arthur blinked. You do? Yup, you get wrinkles. I do? I'm not surprised. You could worry about lots of things, like maybe someday you'll be too old for birthday present. Maybe you think there really is a boogeyman, and he's just waiting for the first night. You forget to check under your bed. Arthur sighed. Those are regular worries, everyday worries. I can handle those. DW gave him a careful look. You mean there's more? Come on, spill the bean. All right, said Arthur. The principal just gave me this envelope for Mom. That's all. Now leave me alone. Wasn't finished there. She took a look at the envelope. What are these words? She asked. Which words? These big words on the front, private and confidential. I know private. What does confidential mean? That only Mom can look at it. The double eyes open wide. She got down from the chair and skipped toward the hall singing. Arthur is in trouble. Arthur is in trouble. For once, Arthur didn't argue with her. He knew she was right. Chapter 5. The good news was that DW suddenly stopped singing. The bad news was that she stopped because she had bumped into her mother. Slow down, sweetie. We can't afford to put a traffic light in here. Mrs. Reed gave DW a quick kiss. Her hands were full of paper. What a day. If I had 2 hands and 4 hands, I would still be behind. Mrs. Reed was an accountant. She always got a little frazzled at tax time. Mom, Arthur's acting a little weird. He brought home a... Hey, that's none of you. Hush, Arthur, said his mother. Not now. I got a few calls to make. She put a paper down on the counter. Arthur, what is this? Arthur cringed. That? That's that. She pointed to the envelope and Pel's dish beside it on the table. The table? Here, in the kitchen? Folded her arms. Yes, the kitchen table. Since when does Pel eat there? Arthur let out a deep breath. Oh, he doesn't. That's why. Did you leave his dish on the table? She put it down on the floor. Honest, Arthur, I expect you to be more careful. While Arthur fidgeted, Mrs. Reed picked up the phone. Dialed the number. She left a message with the secretary. That's my third try this afternoon. The man is just impossible to reach. She glanced at Arta. Is everything all right? You look a little pale, of course. I was just thinking about setting the table for dinner. He pulled out some forks, knobs from a drawer, began placing them in front of each chair. Mail call, said Mr. Reed, arriving with a bundle of letters. He dropped them on top of Arta's envelope. How is everyone today? Dear, you have whipped cream behind your ear. Really? I thought I had cleaned it all up. He scraped the cream off with his finger. I was experimenting with a new dessert. Mr. Reed was very busy with his catering business. I hope no one was hurt. Mr. Reed sighed. Only the pie crust didn't survive. The phone rang. I'll get it, said Mr. Studio. She picked up the mail, the envelope as she answered the phone. Hello, hi Leah. She stared to look through the mail. One letter went into the wastebasket. No, I'm not disappointed you called. I was just expecting to hear from Herb. Put a bill aside for later. I needed some paperwork from him. She flipped through magazine. Yes, I know. It's all due Monday. Arthur watched his mother with an increasing sense of doom. He edged his way to the door. His mother had reached Mr. Haney's envelope. Suddenly the water on the stove began bubbling over. I've got to run, said Mrs. Reed. Talk to you later. She hung up the phone and dropped the envelope on the edge of the counter. She turned back to the stove. Envelope teetered for a moment, then fell into the wastebasket. Arthur slumped with relief. He was innocent. He hadn't put the envelope in the trash. Some other hand had guided it there. It was fate. It was destiny. It was meant to be. The end.